Please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Ring that notification bell. Thanks.
I'd like to give a quick update to the community. Starting Friday morning, we are going to be bringing in a professional cleaning crew to go to the residents and begin cleaning. Part of the reason we're doing that is because of the biohazards as well as chemicals that were used during the investigation. So there will be activity over at that residence on King Road, and we just want people to know about that. I'd like to update everybody on the amount of tips that we've received. Number one, because we've received a lot more tips here recently and we're continuing to investigate those and follow up on those. We've received over 19,650 tips. Email-wise, 9,025 of those have come in. Phone-wise, 4,575, and we've received over 6,050 digital tips. We want to thank the community for all their help and thank everybody across the nation for the help that they've given us.
There wasn't a whole lot that came out of that update, unfortunately. So the house is going to be cleaned up. We knew that would happen eventually. The cars have been released back to the families. At least some of them, if not all of them. I'm not 100% on that one. And we don't have a suspect being named. There hasn't been a lot of information that has gone out. But I'm going to bring it all to you. Whatever I have that seems factual and pertinent, I'm sending it your way. There have been a lot of body cam footages of different parties. I haven't really put that much into my videos because I don't think it really is playing into the murder. I think it's just content people want to give since we don't have an update. Here comes a little more info.
Pretty good. We've given people time off. We've adjusted, so we always have people here working on the case. But we've taken some time to spend with our families.
Mm-hmm. And I know that it's been probably incredibly difficult. So can you tell me a little bit about what officers are handling emotionally with this case?
You know, I think all these cases that any law enforcement goes on are emotional. But, you know, we've brought in counselors and helped officers work through that. And we brought in peer support teams to also give support. And we'll continue to do that as we need to. But all in all, the officers are doing really well.
That's good. That's good. Can we talk a little bit about some of the national attention this case has gotten, and specifically kind of the social media aspect and a lot of, I would say, like armchair detectives.
Sure.
How has that been in trying to do the real police work when you're getting all of that sort of attention?
It's new, you know, we're not used to the national attention quite this big, especially with news crews coming to town and whatnot. But, you know, we brought in a PIO team that's helped us out immensely to deal with just the large amount of requests to do interviews. The online stuff, you know, that's going to happen, right? I mean, that's just the day and age we're in. There's a lot of people who are sending us tips and stuff through that, and we're going to look into all those as well. So some of it's very useful, some of it can be distracting, but we're filtering through that and we're managing that, and the investigators are using the information that's good to continue on with that.
Yeah. Do you mind if we move that mic down a little
Nope,
bit?
that's fine.
It's just kind of rubbing.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
You said it's been kind of distracting. I'm sure that as you're trying to parse I don't want to say there's good tips and bad tips because I'm sure you're running them all out, but as you're trying to parse through all that information, you said it can be distracting and it's probably a lot of extra work.
Yeah, you know, we've had over 17,000 tips come in, and we have a team across the nation that's looking at those and pulling stuff that's good. But we want people to continue to, even any tip that there is, even if they don't think it's a valuable tip, we want those because we'll determine whether they're valuable to us. And people may not think that they're valuable, but we still want that stuff to come into us so that we can look at it and decide if it fits our case or not.
Yeah, and I know a lot of law enforcement says even if you know something you don't think is pertinent to the case. Maybe you saw something that you don't know is the key, but maybe detectives and law enforcement know that that's the thing they need.
That's exactly right, and that's why we've asked people, with any pictures from that night or any video to send it to us, send it to our tip line. We'll determine whether that's valuable or not, and we have, like I said, a team that's looking at all that and bringing things together so that we can paint that picture.
And I know we have a defamation lawsuit going on, and that's probably kind of beyond the scope of what you guys are focused on. But it kind of highlights the national attention of the case and kind of just the, I guess, messiness of the case and what's going on. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
And I just learned about that this morning on the news, and I think I read it in the paper over the weekend. That has to do with the university and the professor, and we're focused on this homicide right now, so that's what we're going to continue to focus on.
How do you stay focused on the facts of the case with all of that extra stuff going on?
Well, I think it's part of what we do. It's, we're trained to investigate things, and we're fact finders. That's what an investigation does. It puts all the pieces together so that we can paint the picture, so that when an arrest is made and it goes to trial, that we can lay that all out for a jury to be able to see the facts and see how we got from point A to point B.
The property owners of that unit that the students were in, have you spoken with them? Are they cooperating with law enforcement?
We have spoken with them, and they are cooperating.
Okay. As we're thinking about winter break coming to an end and students coming back, do you have a message for those students who are returning?
I think I stated in an earlier interview, we want the students to come back. We're going to do everything we can to provide a safe environment, but that really is a family decision. That's a decision that those students and the families need to make, but we're going to do everything in our power to continue to provide safety.
I'm just going to change my shot here a little bit, and as I do that, I'll ask you, are there still patrols? Are there still extra patrols around the university, and how long are those going to be in place if so?
So we always have patrols going on campus. It's an area that our patrol team, first of all, is up there, as well as some campus officers, but I do believe there's going to be some additional state troopers in the area after the break and stuff. And as well, we've reached out to Lake Tahoe County to provide some extra patrols, just so that people were more seen and they can, feel a little bit more comfortable, hopefully.
Yeah. And I know that you said you've gotten about 17,000 tips. Have those helped lead the case in a new direction? Have they helped kind of divert where you guys are looking?
So like I said, we're taking the facts that we know, we're taking all tips that we know, and we're putting those pieces of the puzzle together and painting that picture. And as we continue to investigate, we'll update as soon as we can, but we're moving forward on this investigation, and we're not going to stop until we get a conclusion.
And I know that you can't give us everything, but do you have evidence that can prove the case when and if you do find a suspect?
Like I said, that's part of the investigation, and I know people are frustrated with us holding that so tight, but when we can provide any updated information, we will. I can guarantee you that.
Can you kind of explain to people who may not understand or may have that frustration of why aren't they telling us more, why you hold back some information?
Sure. Well, you always hold back information on any case that you work, but one this big you hold back because you want to have an unbiased jury pool. And it's not just about today, it's about in a year from now or whenever we make an arrest and go to trial. We want to have that pool of people who can look at the case and not have all the facts to that to make the decision to find this person guilty.
what's the timeline on DNA or lab results?
That's a good question. That has everything to do with the lab and how long they take to do what they do. And we don't want to rush that, right? We want to ensure that we're taking our time to get all that right. So we're just waiting for them. It's kind of we have to be patient too. We would love to have all that information immediately, but like I've told people, you know, real life and the movies are a little bit different. And you know, the movies at the end of the hour, they have all that information. We don't get that quite that fast, but we're going to be patient for that.
Yeah, the CSI effect, right?
Yes.
Everybody's thinking that, you know, it's so quick, and it's definitely not that. And I understand if you can't tell me, but is there DNA in this case?
Like I said, I can't answer that question, but we've collected a lot of evidence, and we're looking into every aspect of it. And we're looking into every aspect of it.
And I know there's been funding from the governor to aid in the investigation, so how is that money being used?
That's still ongoing, and that's actually at a level a little bit of me. I just present the numbers to our city supervisor and to the mayor, and then they work with the governor to determine that.
So, and I'm still familiarizing myself with all of the aspects of this, but when did that funding come in?
So that was probably 4 weeks ago, maybe even, when I think Colonel Wills announced that there would be some money made available. So we're just working through the processes of, you know, where it goes and how it's used.
Has this case changed any policies within the Moscow Police Department, or changed the way that you go about investigating?
It is not. We've always been very quick to secure scenes. We've always been very quick to call in ISP, and we've always been very quick to call in our federal partners, FBI, ATF, depending on the type of the case, of who we need the specialty from. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there that we're a small department, but we do utilize our resources, and we utilize them very well.
And what about with getting information out to people and the media? I know there was some criticism at the beginning about how quickly information was coming out, and the idea that there was not an ongoing threat to the public, and then people were concerned that there was not a suspect under arrest, and that criticism.
So I take responsibility for information not getting out as fast as possible. I probably should have been much quicker on that, but in the beginning of these, you know, we're a small department, so everybody's working on this case, and me to be included. But you know, we realized pretty quickly that we needed to get information out. That's why we called in the PIO team, and they've helped us get information, and I think we've been much better at that since that time. You know, some of the information early on, you don't, like I said, you don't release a ton. I wish I would have had a press conference earlier, but like I said, I take responsibility for that.
Probably another one of those that might be hard to answer, but when will the department release the 911 call, or can we expect that to be publicly released?
I think it'll be released when the prosecution believes that we can release that. That may be at trial, that may be before then. But some of that, you know, we make a decision as a team of investigators and administration, as well as our prosecutor's office. So we want to make sure that we hold that until it's no longer, not that it's not needed, but it's okay for the case.
Is there something specific on the call that you believe could lead to an arrest?
Like I said, I can't discuss that. It's part of the investigation, but as soon as we can release that information, we will.
And I think this may be the last question. We know that at least one victim's family has hired a private detective. Have you spoken with that detective or the private investigator? Are you kind of in contact with that family?
We're in contact with all the families daily. We have a representative from the police department that communicates with them. I have not been in contact with the private investigator. I think the same family has an attorney, which we have been in contact with the attorney, and we actually channel all of our stuff through the attorney.
Okay. Anything else that you can think to add, or anything you want people to know?
You know, I think the biggest thing is just the outpouring of support we've had across the community, across our state, and across our nation. We've received multiple emails, food, all cards, you name it. People have reached out to us and thanked us for the hard work, and we'll continue to work hard. We're going to work until, like I said, we get a completion of this case.
So there you have it. Those were the biggest news reports coming from Moscow police, and we really don't have much other than this white car that we still don't have complete resolution on. We still don't have a named suspect, a murder weapon. It's going to come down to DNA, and from what I gather, it's not come back yet. There were a few more statements made. Here goes.
Evidence that they've collected.
Well, Moscow police are coming up on 7 weeks now investigating the murder of 4 University of Idaho college students. They still have no suspect, no murder weapon, no vehicle. So is there someone tied to this case who perhaps knows more than they're letting on? This is what Moscow police seem to think. In an update Tuesday, police said, quote, investigators believe someone has information that adds context to what occurred on the night of the murders, and they're continuing requesting additional pictures, video, and social media content. Let's bring in Chris Swecker. He's retired FBI Assistant Director. Chris, when you hear this from Idaho police, do you think this is a fishing expedition? They just want to get as much information as they can, or are they sending some kind of a message to a potential suspect by saying someone is withholding information?
No, I think they're fishing. This case is, 7 weeks into it. I think a lot of resources have drained off. They still have some FBI agents, and they really need more analysts, in my opinion, going through the data that they have using artificial intelligence and case management application that the FBI brings to the table. But I think they're fishing for more leads. They may know a lot about the crime itself or the crimes, and they have virtual layouts of the crime scene. They have all their trace evidence that they've collected from the scene, but I don't think they know anything about the killer.
When you say that you think they need to bring some more analysts in, is the implication there that they're understaffed in some capacity?
You never can get enough analysts in a case like this. When I read about the number of leads that they have, tips that have come in from the public, the amount of video that they have to go through, and of course the interviews, which you can never do too many interviews because that's really where the good information comes from. But all that information has to go into a case management application. The FBI brings that to the table. Then the analysts can sort through that and make matches or try to make matches or test out theories or test that any leads that have come in, test those leads against the data that they have to see if they're credible. So this is a time for analysts more so than the actual investigators on the street.
They've gotten more than 10,000 tips so far, they tell us. Take a listen to Jonna Spilbor yesterday and what she said about what you just mentioned.
How about taking a second look at those potential suspects that they quickly dismissed? Secondly, how about let's investigate outside the box? And I'm not suggesting that, there's anything nefarious going on within law enforcement, but let's take a look at people, security for the campus, for example, people you would never expect.
Sounds like something you could do with some more investigators, some more analysts.
You sure could. I mean, sometimes there is tunnel vision, and I personally, I believe that there was some tunnel vision in the beginning and all this rhetoric about targeting a specific person and everybody else is okay because this was a targeted attack, which turned out to be, I thought was absolutely untrue from the very beginning. They had no way of knowing that. I think that is a reflection of some tunnel vision. I don't think they created a large enough perimeter for their evidence tape. They should have been a couple hundred yards out in every direction, particularly behind the house where you had mud and snow where the killer likely came from. So unfortunately, and I don't want to throw the department under the bus, but I think unfortunately the crime scene itself and the initial couple of days of investigation had some flaws in it.
Interesting. Well, Chris, we got to leave it there. Thanks for taking time and sharing your expertise with us, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
We just passed the 6-week mark since those tragic and horrible quadruple stabbing murders at the University of Idaho in Moscow, Idaho. Obviously, the 4 victims, students at the University of Idaho, and as of yet, no suspect or suspects and no motive and no murder weapon as well. We're also trying to learn new details as they slowly trickle in. Here's a new detail that we're learning just within the last hour or so here on Live Now from Fox. This from our Fox News digital reporters there on the scene. An update, Chief Fry is floating the idea that the 911 call could be made public. This from our Fox team on the ground in Moscow, floating the potential release of the 911 call. Authorities may be warming up to the idea of releasing that call of the unsolved slayings of the 4 University of Idaho students. Moscow police, James Fry, floated the possibility of making the reporting public in an interview with a local TV station on a Tuesday. Of course, this is just past the 6-week mark here as we're following this ongoing story here on Live Now from Fox. Saying, I think it'll be released when the prosecution believes that we can release it, Fry said of the call, which police have so far said little about other than it was placed from a surviving roommate's phone and that multiple people spoke with the dispatcher. That may be at trial, Fry told a Spokane-based TV station in an interview. That may be before then. He declined whether to say anything specific on the call that could help detectives make an arrest. Obviously, police have said that just before noon on November 13th, someone called 911 to report an quote, unconscious person in the King Road house. Officers arrived to find Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, both 21, along with Azana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin, both 20, dead on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the house. The county coroner later said they all suffered multiple stab wounds. The other 2 housemates whose rooms were on the bottom level were not attacked, according to authorities. Fry came under fire earlier in the investigation after assuring the public that there was no, quote, ongoing threat after an unknown assailant went off into an on-campus rental house and fatally stabbed those 4 likely sleeping students, then escaped without a trace. Fry said the number of tips coming in has surpassed 17,000 as the case nears its 7th week without a suspect. Mogan and Gonsalves spent part of the evening in downtown Moscow at the Corner Club bar and were seen ordering snacks at a food truck before they caught a ride home around 2 a.m. Kernodle and Chapin were at a party about 200 yards away from a fraternity house, who the latter was a member of, and returned around 1:45, according to police. Police have released very few details after announcing the December 7th that they were looking for a white Hyundai Elantra between 2011 and 2013, which they believed was near the crime scene around the time of the slayings. However, they avoided answering questions about whether they have photographs placing the vehicle at the scene and have released only stock images as they asked the public for help tracking down the driver and potential passengers. Records obtained by Fox News Digital shows that there were 90 similar cars registered to park on campus, but police have said they were working their way through a list of 22,000. Of course, the big news on this Wednesday, though, coming from Chief Fry, floating the idea that the 911 call made the morning after these tragic murders could be made public. Of course, that coming from one of the surviving roommates, and multiple voices were on the call. Of course, those 4 University of Idaho students tragically killed between 3 and 4 in the morning. This, according to police. So something we're continuing to follow very closely here on Live Now from Fox, has stretching into a month and a half after these tragic murders there on November the 13th.
We've just passed all of the holidays. Hope you and your family were safe and had a nice holiday. I wish I could wish that for these families, as I know it was extremely difficult for them. We just have to keep sharing the story, keep putting out pertinent information, and hopefully someone will be brought to justice soon. There hasn't been a whole lot of light shed this past week, but hopefully we'll get more updates in the future. Also, keep little buddy in mind. If you have any tips on either crimes, please call them into the Moscow Police Department. Phone number is 208-883-7180, or email the tip line at tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. Be safe, everyone, and thanks for watching.